All right. Morning, everyone. Sorry about the late start this morning. Some difficulties with my machine on the screen's not working properly. All right. Last night's session, the S&P relatively strong, especially out of the NASDAQ and U.S. sessions. We saw the NASDAQ pushing up about 0.75%, maybe a little bit of a relief out of the UK with the most recent poll coming in and really showing the likelihood that they're not going to secede from Scotland won't secede from the UK. Well, the thing to watch yesterday was the British pound, which we saw trade from 161 in the morning. It pushed down to about 160 and a half. The markets weakened out a little bit on that, and as we started to push stronger in the pound and cross that 161 threshold, the markets really started to strengthen into that. You can see there we were a little bit soft at the beginning of the sessions there, only to really reverse and push higher after that. So, as a whole, obviously, markets solid. Had social media stocks that really traded better on the day, kind of led by Twitter on a analyst upgrade there, and the whole sector really caught a bid on the back of that. So, but not a whole lot else to follow on the day. If you look in the Asian session, after that, we didn't really have a whole lot of follow-through in the States. We had the Nikkei, which did follow through with the yen kind of approaching that 107 level. The rest of the markets really were continued to be soft on the back of that. Not a whole lot going on. We had Chinese numbers on inflation, which are a little bit weaker than expected. But I mean, obviously, that's probably coming out of the fact that growth's a little bit lower. Obviously, money supply numbers down, all those sorts of things. You can't really expect inflation to be hot after numbers like that. So we did have a little bit of softness again in a couple of the miners and stuff out of Australia that just continue to be laggards. We continue to see underperformance there, and that theme, I think you have to be patient, not try to pick bottoms in those stocks until they show you that the bottom has been put in. All right, if you look here, this is a chart showing the U.S. U.S. GDP numbers, not GDP numbers, the U.S. total product of global, global production versus the rest of the world. And you can see there, obviously, the U.S. crossed up above Britain ages ago, back in the early 1900s, and we've kind of been continuing to pull away from all the other major economies around the world, except for the last 10, 15 years. We've seen a real narrowing of that percentage in favor of China. China getting very close, and a lot of people saying in the next 2-3 years that China will actually surpass the U.S. I don't actually think that's going to happen, not because I'm American. I don't want to lose to the Chinese, but I just don't think that. I think that China is an unsustainable system that's kind of set up with a lot of artificial demand coming from them just pumping money into infrastructure projects, which can't obviously last forever. So anyway, interesting nonetheless that the U.S. and China are starting to become similar sizes. It shows you how important China is at the moment. All right. Corporate action today, we've got RMI, which is coming out with full year numbers. We've got last night was a hugely busy night out of some of the brokers, namely JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs on the local index. We did have Woolies that was cut to neutral by Goldman, but we had a whole slew of alerts. So we had MMI, which target prices increased to $30 by Barclays. We had Royal Bafokeng, which target prices decreased to $86.80 by JP Morgan. Northern Platinum target price decreased to $54.40 by JP Morgan. Lonmin target price decreased to $46 by JP Morgan. Impala Platinum target price decreased to $98 by JP Morgan. Aquarius Platinum upgraded to overweight by JP Morgan. Anglo American target price decreased to $5.50 by JP Morgan. The Foschini Group target price increased to $124 by Goldman Sachs. Truworths target price increased to $103 by Goldman Sachs. Woolworths, obviously we just mentioned, were downgraded to neutral by Goldman. Mr. Price target price increased to $201 by Goldman Sachs. Massmart Holdings target price decreased to $122 by Goldman Sachs. ShopRite Holdings target price decreased to $209 that is, by Goldman Sachs. So there was a hell of a lot out from these two brokers, I've never seen such a busy day out of the two. So just keep that in mind. Could be a lot of action on the back of some of those upgrades, downgrades. Obviously, the entire platinum sector got a big downgrade out of J.P. Morgan. A couple of other common themes there. Some of the retailers getting a boost out of Goldman, but keep that in mind. All right. Market data out today. We had Chinese PPI numbers, like we said earlier, came in a little bit softer than expected, putting a little bit of the growth fears into the Chinese market again. We had CPI numbers out of Germany this morning, which came dead in line. We've also got CPI numbers out of France coming in just a minute. We've got local manufacturing production at 1 o'clock. And then in the States, we've got initial jobless claims, Bloomberg Consumer Comfort, and monthly budget statement numbers. All right, let's get into the maps. All right, we're going to take a little bit different approach this morning. We're going to show a couple quite short-term things just to kind of throw a little bit of idea toward trade action. First thing we're going to look at is not going to be short-term. So this is silver. You can see they're dropping hard out of at a downtrend, and we've been consolidating here for the better part of a year. I don't know why it's not giving me proper candles, but either way, you can see here there's a real support level that we're coming into in silver, which happens at around 1850, call it 1860. In silver, I think we drop 1860. In silver, it could get a little bit messy. This consolidation has happened off of a downtrend, so I'd be really cautious out of this. And definitely looks potentially like it can drop the bottom out. The bottom does drop here. There's a hugely lower target out of this little descending triangle. So just keep an eye on this. We can obviously also break out of the top of this formation, but we've got a ways to go before that would happen. So silver and gold just not being able to bounce under any circumstances lately, and obviously the shares have been under pressure on the back of that as well. All right, let's look at Aspen. We're going to look at Aspen, just look at the day chart from yesterday in Aspen. I want to talk around a little bit and how to play this. These earnings can be exceptionally hard to play sometimes because the beats and the misses and the earnings aren't always simply in the top line and bottom line numbers. Very often we're seeing it's one specific comment made around forward guidance, that the analysts really like. It's exceptionally hard to break them down in an instant. So what's actually better is to simply just be able to judge the trade action. What I wanted to show here was what happened yesterday in this stock, and this happened in three of our stocks yesterday, or two or three of our stocks yesterday, and they're really classic patterns. When you get these sort of moves that give you a real opportunity, not at the very beginning when it happens, but only after. So yesterday, you can see here, obviously, these 3 or 4 green candles in Aspen when they came out. We had the big spike up on the back of earnings, kind of chopped around here for a couple minutes, maybe 5 or 6 minutes, and then really reversed off, sold down to about the level where we broke out from, popped back up quickly from that and consolidated. Now, what's interesting here is after this consolidation, so we got in a super tight consolidation here for, call it 1 rand in Aspen for the most part. If you take out that one little 2-minute blip. And so we were in a super tight consolidation. When we started to move to the upside here, you could maybe start to get a little bit more bullish. But where it really becomes the right opportunity to jump into these trades is when you take out the initial spike high. So we've showed that consolidation. When we make new highs from that initial spike, that's where you pounce on the trade. And that's where there's actually the most meat in it. You can see there, you had a really hard move up through when we took out the highs, consolidated again, moved higher again, but there was a lot of money to be made there for you short-term guys, and even for the CFD guys that are looking to get involved on some of these corporate actions. I'm going to go back to Steinhoff, and we're going to look at this on I'm going to have to go back 5 days here. So I'm going to show the same sort of thing. Just shorten this up a little bit. When Steinhoff came out, so you also had the same sort of thing. Remember, this is more days, and the chart doesn't look the same because you're not getting as many minutes in here. But you can see the same sort of thing with this spike up in Steinhoff here, right? We traded up to as high as 50, call it 52 on the session, right? We spiked up there, then only to reverse back down to below 51.50. We actually traded back down below 51.50 here, traded a lot of volume around 50 that level, 51.50, and then we started to reverse up. When we reversed up, and remember, like I said, these are 5-minute bars and not 2-minute bars, so there'd be a lot more action, there'd be a lot more time here if you were spreading it out a little bit further. But bottom line is, if as we pulled back here, we consolidated a little bit. Remember, this is about a 30-minute period. Once we pushed higher here and we got above that original spike high, that was where the opportunity was. That was where the money was, and we had another 70, 80 cents there of upside, about 1.5% of upside there in Steinhoff on the back of that. Same sort of thing with some of these stocks that have been trending really hard. Yesterday, Naspers trended really hard. We'll look at it just from yesterday's chart also. This thing, when it pulled back yesterday, it sold down after that initial move down to, what level is this? I think just have a look. It was right around 1,300. It spiked just below 1,300, got back up, traded up to as high as about 1,305. It took this took an hour and a half to do, but after that initial push down, we made this kind of sideways consolidation, rounded reversal, and as we took the low out, that's where the opportunity really was, and it just happened over and over again in the day. And if we look at these stocks where you're trending hard and you have really high volume, and a lot higher than average daily volume. That's exactly how you want to play it. You want to wait for the thing to take out the previous highs or take out the previous lows, and that's where the opportunity is. And I think it's really important to improve on those sorts of setups and plays. All right, so if we look at Telkom, we'll go back to some of the slightly longer term stuff. You can see here Telkom's obviously been on the tear as of late. We're looking at a 30-minute chart here. And you can see the last however many sessions we've really been flagging here into over the last week, and we broke out from that flag yesterday to the upside here. I would maybe look to, if you're looking to enter this thing, maybe look to enter and set a stop below the lows of yesterday, which would be about call it 60 and a half. And Telkom probably has an upside of about $3 or $4 from there. And then the last one I'm going to show is actually a 1 year on British American Tobacco on the LSE, looking potentially like we're going to break out here, or maybe already have broken out here. It's more or less right at the level, maybe making a little bit of an inverse head and shoulder setup here. Not as classic as some you'd like to see, but either way, definitely looking to break out of resistance here. I'd like to see this thing just clear to new all-time highs, which would be above 36.15. Probably have significant room in the upside there, maybe of about £2. And that's it for today, guys. Good luck out there.